Welcome to Round Hill Radio, the podcast from Round Hill Community Church. Through our conversations, we discover the holy and the ordinary, find moments of grace and peace, and redefine what we're talking about when we talk about faith. Welcome to Round Hill Radio. I'm Leslie.
And I'm Ed. And we have a special guest today. We are thrilled to have Skyler Badenoch as our guest for our podcast today. And Skyler is the Chief Executive Officer of Hope for Haiti. Its website is hopeforhaiti.com. And I had the privilege of being introduced to Skyler through a book group that I've been part of for a while. And we were looking at a book on Haiti and reading that. And fortunately, Skyler was able to be part of that conversation. So it was such a joy to have your insights. And I was in the middle of that conversation, I'm thinking, wait a second, this needs to be continued on Round Hill Radio. So here we are. And Skyler, welcome to Round Hill Radio.
Thank you so much, Leslie and Ed, for having me on today.
Great stuff. So, Round Hill Radio has been underway for a while, and we love to explore questions of faith and hope and love. And we like to bring into this conversational setting people who are trying to bring more of those things into the world. And you certainly qualify. I want to ask you to describe Hope for Haiti and the work that you do. But before you do that, I have a question for you.
Oh, great.
Skyler, if you could go back in time and you could meet your 21-year-old self, and you could inform your 21-year-old self about the work that you are doing now, would that person be shocked, exhilarated, dismayed, in awe? What do you think your reaction would have been back then?
Yeah, I think that person would be exhilarated, because even at 21, I think I was on this path. Yeah, I was about to go into the Peace Corps at 21, and so with everything that the Peace Corps brings, I didn't exactly know what my service was going to be like, but it was my hope was that it was going to lead to something transformational in my life, and it did. And so I think if I went back and told my 21-year-old self that going into the Peace Corps would lead to a career in international development, I would be exhilarated.
Oh, that's good to know. It's lovely sometimes, I think, when life has that directional flow. Many people, are kind of constantly searching and recalibrating, but occasionally it seems to work over a long period of time. So we're excited to hear that. And so, Skyler, tell us about the work that you're doing and tell us about Hope for Haiti.
Yeah, thanks. And so Hope for Haiti for the last 32 years has been working to improve the quality of life of Haitian people, particularly children. And for us, we think about it not so much as what we do, but as the problems that we help solve. Right now, we know that illiteracy is really keeping people in abject or extreme poverty. We know that families lack access to healthcare in Haiti. Specifically women and children. We know that access to water and access to clean drinking water is a huge problem, is one of the main causes of death for children under the age of 5. And we know that entrepreneurs lack the access to opportunity and economic opportunity to grow and sustain their businesses. And so these are some of the problems that our organization over the years has been helping solve. And so we do that by working in partnership with communities and leaders to lift up systems of education and healthcare and access to infrastructure, access to clean water, and access to economic opportunity. And we do that with the funds that are generously donated to us. We support a network of 24 partner schools, mostly in rural communities in Haiti. It's about 424 teachers, 7,000 students. We run a bricks and mortar infirmary that treats, this year we'll treat about 20,000 patients through general consultations and referrals. We bring in about $21 million worth of medication, medical supplies, and medical equipment, not only for our own use, but to help distribute to other partners, government hospitals, nonprofit clinics, to really lift up the system, the healthcare system in southern Haiti. We work in the water space, so we help families access a very simple filtration system that will help them filter millions of gallons of water every single year. And what that does is really prevents waterborne illness. It prevents intestinal worms. It prevents the types of things that cholera, things that will kill people. And then lastly, we have an economic development program, an economy program that provides loans and grants to social business and entrepreneurs. And so what this really is at Hope for Haiti, it's a holistic approach that we take to development. We stay in the same region. We don't venture around. We don't chase funds that are outside of our mission or our strategic plan. We're very disciplined in that way. And then lastly, one of the things that's really important for our organization, because we work in Haiti, is just financial transparency, fiscal accountability, and good governance. And that's something that we've been committed to for the last 32 years. Really proud that Charity Navigator gives us their 4-star rating. For the last 13 years, they tell us 1% of all nonprofits got that and have received that. And really, I think that's a testament to our board, to our commitment to best in class financial systems. And that's just a really important part of doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. On your website, it's clear that you are proud of your team and that you have worked very hard to build a magnificent team. How do you do it? How does that happen?
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's the first thing I really think about is a strategic plan. We have a great strategic plan, and we have a good track. I fully believe in our programmatic model, but it's only as good as the people who are implementing it. Sure. It's only as good as the people who are driving who are driving the bus. And so I think there are a few things that we've done to build a great team. The first is this idea of collaborative leadership, that every single person on our team is a leader and has a tremendous amount to offer and can transform the organization. And we believe in that. We don't just believe in it, we practice it. And so we have, I think, some people call it micromanaging. We don't do that. We make sure that people have the room to excel and succeed in their own jobs and be their own leaders within the work that they're doing. I think that's just, to me, it's such an important part of an organization, that people feel valued, that people have the autonomy to use their skills and intelligence to do good work. I think second, and this really speaks to something that I've learned along the way, is you got to make sure that you compensate people in the right way, and somebody who we read a lot of Ray Dalio's work, and his book Principles is something that's really important for our organization. He's got a principle. I think it's something like pay north of fair. And it's not that we're paying extraordinary amounts to all of our team members, but it's really important that people are compensated for their work. And so I think that keeps people around, that they feel like not only do they have the ability and the autonomy to do the work, but they're compensated fairly. And then I think professional development is the third thing, is that we have to continuously invest in ourselves and our colleagues and our team members. And I think when people feel like they're growing, when people feel like they're being invested in, that also creates a wonderful team dynamic. And so professional development is a very important part of our culture at Hope for Haiti. And people are just encouraged to do it, but we're required to, think about what professional development looks like every single year for every single employee. And I think that's an important part of building a team.
Yeah. You and your team clearly also face huge obstacles. I mean, you're working at so many different fronts at the same time, but you're using this wonderfully integrated approach. But I couldn't help think, as I was watching some of the videos that are available on YouTube and listening to the stories that you shared when I first met you, you bring hope. And I say you collectively. What gives you hope as you've been engaged in this work? What is it that makes you feel hopeful about the future, even in light of some of those most significant challenges that you face?
Yeah, for me, it always goes back to people. Sometimes it's my colleagues. By the way, I will say that when I get to see one of my colleagues maybe just start out at the organization and then just do incredibly well and succeed, that gives me tremendous hope. That's probably one of the most fulfilling feelings I've had during my time at Hope for Haiti, when I see my colleagues succeed. The other thing that gives me hope is when I get to meet people who are impacted by our work. And, because of the nature of our work, Hope for Haiti, we got to be in Haiti. We have to go down to Haiti. We have to meet people, and we have to be in the field and going to rural communities and talking to moms and dads and kids and teachers and school directors. Those are the types of people who also give me hope personally. And the stories because I've been fortunate to travel down to Haiti many times. The stories of the school director who used to just have a 3-classroom school, who's helped build that school all the way up into now that's offering now high school. The mom has 5 kids who's sending her kids to school because she knows it's the only way to break out of that cycle of absolute poverty. Those stories, or the family that didn't have access to clean water and was getting their water from, a stream or a lake or a catchment system, and they were just always sick. And then when they get a filtration system and they tell me personally, this filtration system made our family healthy. Those are inspiring moments that remind all of us that this work is important and it's worthwhile and it's meaningful.
It's a beautiful thing when your own work inspires you to continue your own work. Mm-hmm. That sort of cyclical thing is that I think a lot of people sort of dream of that kind of life experience. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I am trying to think of one really good example, but I have a colleague. She's a doctor in our healthcare program, and 3 years ago she decided that diabetes is just a really big problem in Haiti, and they need to that our team should be raising awareness and helping the community. And so she organized a diabetes march. She put it all down on paper. She said, "This is what we have to do." And we took one look at it. We're like, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do." And 3 years later, last November, I got to go to Haiti and walk in the city of Les Cayes, where our office is, with our team. And they were like hundreds of people masked up, marching in solidarity to raise awareness for diabetes. And those are moments of inspiration, because it's when you recognize you're part of something that's bigger, way bigger than yourself, and you get to play a small role. That's also a moment of inspiration. And then Dr. Denny, who's the doctor I'm thinking of, she didn't get to do it alone. All of her colleagues helped her out, and it's a collaborative effort, but it was her idea. It was the autonomy that she had to make the diabetes walk happen. And it was personally inspiring to me just to see what kind of impact that has on the community.
Yeah. Well, clearly you're creating, what is sometimes called a permission giving culture. And so you're giving permission for people to thrive and act on their ideas.
Oh yeah. I've never really heard that, but I like it. And definitely that's something that we have going on in our culture at Hope for Haiti.
Skyler, one question I have is, particularly as I was looking at some other of the YouTube videos and hearing some of the inspiring stories, that you're already referencing, but it seems that all across the world, the key is to develop this entrepreneurial mentality and mindset, to give people both the permission and the skills and the means to be able to, in a sense, act on their dreams, or at least to act on something that will bring greater benefit in terms of health and well-being to themselves and their loved ones and the wider community. How do you see that unfolding specifically, that notion of, you referenced it a little bit earlier, but this notion of this entrepreneurial, culture that people are trying to create in many places across the world, so that people become in a sense, the leaders, the makers of their own destiny.
Yeah, there's this, it always brings me back to this quote. I've said it 100 times. It's not mine, but it's that intelligence and ability are equally distributed throughout the world, but opportunity is not. And in many ways, what we do at Hope for Haiti is we try to bridge the opportunity gap, especially for entrepreneurs in Haiti and the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And what we found is that there are these incredibly talented, driven, hardworking, creative people who have ideas and they have businesses, but the lack of financing or the lack of technical training just isn't there. And so we have been able to, through the support of many of our donors, we've been able to provide loans and grants and also training to entrepreneurs, because we know that just like here in the United States, we know that can be a game changer when people just unlock that access to financing, the seed funding. They're venture capitalists thinking about what's the next big thing in Silicon Valley, our team sits around and we think about what could be the next big thing in the southern part of Haiti, and who are the drivers of economic and social change in the country that we can invest in. And then we seek those people out, and we try to partner with them, and we finance them and to some success, and not every business that we've financed is a glowing success. That just can't be. But there are so many examples of entrepreneurs who've made it, who are growing, who are repaying their loans. And for us as an organization, that's just really important to be the bridge to the opportunity gap that exists. And I think when you think about development, it's in many ways, there's short-term development, there's long-term development. Long-term development is about generational change. In some ways you can affect long-term development are investing in education, investing in literacy, because those types of things pay huge dividends. And so we also like to think of things in the long term and staying in one region for many years, partnering with the same organizations over many years so that we could all grow and make a collective impact together over a longer period of time.
Yeah. Skyler, just moving into the present day and its own particular challenges as we navigate life in a global pandemic, what's that meant for Haiti and for Haitians? Can you share your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think back to last March, almost a year ago. Today we're almost hitting the year mark, and our entire leadership team was in Haiti in the beginning of March when word came that we had to go back to the United States and start quarantining. So we were in Haiti. We were doing some leadership exercises, working on professional development, strategic planning. We had to go back home, and it really upended our organization for just a brief moment. And I think there were a few things that helped us, by the way. One was that we'd been through Hurricane Matthew in 2016, pretty big disaster. We'd been through cholera. We'd just been through a countrywide lockdown and protests that had extended past a year. Our organization was on the ground when the earthquake happened. So we were able to sort of draw off our experiences in working together as a team and during times of crisis, and we took a pause. We didn't panic, but we took a pause and we really assessed what we thought the impacts of the pandemic were going to be and how our organization was going to have to navigate them. So our team, actually, we did a SWOT analysis, a very quick SWOT analysis within about a week. And that gave us a very good roadmap for the things that we wanted to focus on. And even when we go back about periodically to look at that SWOT analysis and look at what activities we said we wanted to focus on. Some of them were right on. And I think that, and they came from our team. They came from all members of our team who contributed to this ideation of, like, here we are in a pandemic. What are the things that we have to do, and what ways can our organization make an impact, and how are we uniquely qualified to make an impact? Now, Haiti as a country, luckily, has not been as hard hit by COVID as other countries, even here in the United States. And we're not 100% sure why that is. You would think that all of the conditions in Haiti, the population density, the way that people move about, even some of the sanitation conditions would just be a powder keg for something like COVID-19. And it hasn't been yet. And we know that because we run an infirmary. So we would be able to tell you we're seeing an uptick in a lot of patients. Or, when I was in Haiti in November, I was talking to the family that owns the largest mortuary in Haiti. And he said, I would know too. I would know if I had an uptick in business, and I haven't. And so luckily the country hasn't been impacted by the implications of COVID, but just like many things, COVID isn't just about the health implications. There are also social and economic impacts. And I think for those impacts, Haiti's been hit, pretty hard. I think the number of written remittances, that's money sent back from Haitian Americans Haitians living in the United States back to Haiti. Yep. I think that number has gone down. A lot of that funding tends to go to support education and healthcare, and basic human needs, food, sometimes even food. And when that decreases, that has the ability to create a humanitarian disaster, where, people are hungry or they can't access basic things, basic human rights. And so we're really worried about that. We have seen that there's been some, there's been some cause for alarm in those areas. And so we're trying to monitor that. We're also trying to do our best to play a role in mitigating the social, economic, and health impacts of COVID. And so, we were on the ground. We had PPE on hand that we were able to use and distribute to our partners. Hundreds of thousands of masks there in Haiti that we already had because of the work that we're doing. And so it felt good to be able to just hand those off to healthcare partners and not just hold them for our own use. Sure. We've opened up some financing, we call them recovery grants, to small entrepreneurs. One of the things I'm most proud of, and this was a big time team effort, is that we asked ourselves during COVID, we said, well, who are the equivalent of like the grocery store clerks in Haiti? And those are the street vendors, people who are out really on the front line selling, food and goods that people buy on a day-to-day basis. We thought, they're high at risk. They're going to be impacted by shutdowns. And so in our community, we did a cash transfer to about 150 street vendors in the city that we were working. And then we attached that cash transfer with a training on the prevention of the spread of COVID-19 and distribution of a water filtration system and masks and hand sanitizer. And that was something that we felt really proud of, that we were able to contribute to this community that we're, so much of a part of.
Yeah. Well, you're really then activating people who are close to people as some of your, in effect, they become agents of good, right?
Yeah, that's right. And even with our teacher network. So, again, the network, when you have a network of people you're communicating with on a constant basis, that helped us also spread the word. So we had 424 teachers that we were able to help mobilize, provide the right information in Creole, so that they can share out with their communities, with the students that they teach, with the families that they work closely with. And so, again, that just having a more collaborative culture within the organization and a network, I think helped us make a greater impact during this time.
In what ways are organizations here in the United States partnering with you? I mean, maybe even just on a one-time basis, or maybe on a more recurrent basis. What have been some examples if people say, how can I get involved? How can I support this amazing work that's undergoing, that you're doing? What can they do?
Yeah, well, I'll talk. There are some incredible partners that we've been able to establish and maintain a strong relationship with over the years. And I'll highlight a few because they're actually in your neck of the woods. So AmeriCares has been a tremendous partner of Hope for Haiti over the years. In fact, AmeriCares was helpful in the founding of our organization more than 32 years ago. Our founder, Joanne Keener, went to Haiti for the first time on an AmeriCares airlift. And that was the inspiration for her to start Hope for Haiti. And through the years, they've provided our organization with more than $100 million worth of medication, medical supplies, medical equipment that we've been able to take, transport to Haiti, navigate the customs, drive to 3.5 hours to our infirmary in the South, and then use that as a distribution center for more than now 30 different healthcare providers. So AmeriCares has been a really important partner for our organization over the years, and they still are to this day. And we're going to be talking to them on Friday, actually, to thank them for their partnership. Stanford Health is another organization that's been really helpful. Their chief operating officer, Liz Longmore, sits on our board. And she's been tremendous in helping us navigate what we're doing as an organization to think through the right protocols. But Stanford Health has gone even further. They've provided Hope for Haiti with grant funding so that we can improve our healthcare programs. And when Stanford Health did the remodel of one of their healthcare wings, they donated all of the medical supplies and medical equipment to Hope for Haiti. And through the support of one of our generous board members, we were able to ship that down to Haiti and get that into the hands of healthcare facilities. It was things like bedside tables and respirators and, things that you would imagine, therapy tables that I've seen kids and their moms use in one of our rehabilitation the centers that we support. And so Stanford Health has been a great partner. And so I think that's one way, we've created community in the United States is through partnership. On an individual level, there are a few main ways that people can get involved in our work. During normal times, we encourage people to come down and visit our work and see it. And that's been tremendously impactful. I was actually just talking to one of our donors who I brought down to Haiti. It was probably 3 years ago today. And we're still we're close. We talk on the phone, we text. He's still a major donor. He's connected authentically to Haiti, but he went down. He said, that's one of the best things that I've ever done is to go down and meet your team and talk to the education program manager, to talk to the students, to learn about the challenges firsthand, and then also see the beauty of the country. And so that's one way people can get involved when things are safe. And we've been able to defeat the pandemic. Another way to get involved is just through advocacy. Spread the word about the organization and the work of Hope for Haiti. We've been really blessed to have people who are essentially brand ambassadors, who are out there telling people about not just the impact that we're making as an organization, but I think the other side of it is the way that we run our organization through the commitment of governance, transparency, and accountability. We like to share that with anybody. If there's any nonprofit out there that's interested in learning about best practices for nonprofit management, we'll share our documents. That's not something that we want to hold just to ourselves. We want to share it so that others can benefit from what we've learned over the last 32 years. And then the last thing, I'll give a plug for my two colleagues who are just unbelievably inspiring. Taylor Hebel and Sarah Porter, my two colleagues who are running Hope for Haiti's third annual Hike for Haiti Challenge. This is something that was that we came up with about 3 years ago. And it's because we have a community up in the mountains. I mean, it is a tough community to get to. It's like a 3-hour walk up a footpath to get to. And we support them through education, healthcare, and access to infrastructure. We actually just built a computer lab up there where the families brought like solar panels on their backs for 3 hours just so that they can have access to computer technology. Well, we were inspired by that. And so we created something called the Hike for Haiti Challenge that asks people to walk in solidarity with school children who walk unreasonable distances to access education. And it's happening from April to May this year. And we're engaging our entire community. We have some incredible ambassadors from all walks of life who are authentically connected to Haiti, who are helping us spread the word. But we're asking groups and individuals and families and church groups and corporations and anybody and everybody who's inspired by this idea that kids should not walk unreasonable distances just to access education. And we do that in solidarity with those kids. And then we ask people to raise just a little bit of funds. I think the registration fee is like $30. And last year we raised $100,000. And this year I've challenged the team to double that or triple that. Sometimes I waver back and forth between doubling and tripling, but that's another. Yeah, right. Exactly. But that's another way for people to get involved. And then, it also in the Greenwich, in Greenwich community in Northeast, we also run an event every year. And so come to our event, hear about the stories of the inspiring leaders in Haiti and the people who've been impacted by our work. We would love to have people join in on those events. And right. They're really, they're really just for people to understand the work that we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we go about our work.
Is the information about Hike for Haiti and the event and all that, can that be found on your website, hopeforhaiti.com?
It's found right on our website at hopeforhaiti.com. And you can register through our website. You could create a team and people can hike with, as team members, as family members. Last year, it was supposed to just be, for 3 days over a weekend. But because of the pandemic, we extended it for a month, and we found that it was really something that galvanized our community. It energized a lot of our long-term supporters. We found new supporters in our work, and so we decided that it's just going to be a month-long thing from now on, and we're going to keep doing it. The fun part is when things open up, we actually are going to hike. We're going to hike that mountain as part of the Hike for Haiti challenge. And so there's going to be some opportunity for people to go and actually do the exact hike that we did that inspired the Hike for Haiti challenge. And that to me is when we get back to doing those types of things, I'm really looking forward to it, because it's what inspires us and it keeps us going. And, it drives us to continue the work that we're doing.
Wow. That vision of inspiration is probably a good way to bring our conversation to a conclusion today. Skyler, it has been wonderful. We have so enjoyed listening to your thoughts and your reflections. We are admirers of your leadership and the vision and mission of Hope for Haiti, and we wish you Godspeed in every way, and look forward to staying in contact with you as the future unfolds.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Leslie. It's been a pleasure, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks.
You too. Blessings in every way. Thank you so much.
Right. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Round Hill Radio is brought to you by the friends and members of Round Hill Community Church. For more information, please visit roundhillcommunitychurch.org.